Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Laser Sports Academy podcast. I am very excited to have some of our brothers from Western Australian laser tag scene. I've got Gaza and Commander Snake. Gentlemen,
Hello, hello.
thanks so much for jumping on today.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Always excited to talk about laser tag.
Yeah, well, we got heaps to talk about tonight. Because just as we were talking about just before we jumped on, you guys are in a really unique position. Like, I actually don't know if there's any scene in the globe that has your unique perspective. And one of the keys to that is that you guys are on Laser Force. You originally a zone scene, have come onto Laser Force in like the last 10 years or so. And you guys still compete at the Zone Nationals. So you guys have got a whole bunch of experience and stories to tell about that whole journey that we're going to dig into throughout the pod. And also, being an old Western Australian myself, I have a special place in my heart for the place and for the scene. And I guess not what a lot of people know is that WA is probably, if not the oldest, one of the oldest scenes in Australia. I wouldn't have exact dates, but I started in 1994 and the scene had already been going for a couple of years at that point. So WA has been running leagues and competitions, like good leagues and competitions, since the early 90s at the old Zone 3 Perth and Northbridge days. That's where I started working at Zone 3 Northbridge in 94. And also, not a lot of people know, I actually played league with Gaz's mum and dad.
True.
Yeah,
my dad's been playing probably longer than you have.
Yep.
Forever at this point. Much longer than Snake and I have been alive. So,
Yeah.
it's been a very long time. We've had laser tag here. I should have checked with my dad earlier as to how long he's been playing, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like late 80s. He's been playing laser tag kind of that long since really its inception, I guess. And yeah, just we've had a lot of different sites over the years, some of which I've played at, some of which were long gone before I came around. Yeah.
Well, let's find out a little bit before we get into the WA scene. Let's learn a little bit more about you guys. So yeah, why don't you kick us off, Gaza? Tell us about your background in laser tag and what your journeys look like.
Yeah, so I'm Gaza. I play for WA. 26 years old. I've been playing laser tag, since I was old enough to. And before then, like I was just saying, my parents played laser tag. Before I came around. Dad used to take me in the arena when I was a toddler, back when the guns were one-handed, so he could use my gun. My mum played while she was pregnant with me, that sort of stuff. It's just that actually did happen. So I've sort of been born and bred into laser tagging. I've been playing Zone League, specifically since 2008 when the Malaga store opened. And Dad sort of was like, this new store's opened up nearby. Let's let's get back into it, because he'd sort of had a couple of years off at that point, raising his kids. And yeah, at that point, we were big enough to come make a league team. So I've been playing leagues, since 2008. How long is that now? 16 years. Started to really open up into becoming decent. Probably sort of 2012, 2013. I think if you go back and look at the torn files, I was like an E grade for a very long time, and then went to a double B in one season, sort of, once I hit about 16 years old. I've been going to Zone Nationals since 2017. Adelaide was my first one, so was that like 8, maybe 9, 7, something like that. I've been to all of them since then. Play a lot of laser tag. Currently, I captain WA Surge, as you can see on the chat. I think we're sticking with Surge for this year as well. It's the second time I've been on a team that's had the same name twice. And yeah, currently I own the site that we're in. As you might see from the background, we're currently in the storeroom of our site. Yeah, 8 months ago, I bought this site off Wombat, the previous owner. and have played a ton of laser tag since, basically. So yeah, that's me.
Living the dream.
Pretty much. They just play laser tag all the time. I was thinking about this earlier. I can't think of the last day that happened where I haven't touched a pack.
Well, for the international viewers that might not know Gaza is a very accomplished player, excellent player. Solos finalist on. You've finaled in solos on several occasions, haven't you?
I think just once, 2019 finals.
Yeah.
I've made solos round 3 a lot since then. I think that's the only finals of an event I've made. I made round 2 of Law twice. I've made round 3 of doubles a couple times. I haven't gone particularly far in triples. And the highest I've placed in teams is like 9th. We came 9th in 2020. But I've pretty much always placed somewhere between like 15th to 9th.
I think if there was
except Hobart, where I came 29th or something, or 28th, because I was on a development team. But other than that, I've like sort of fit in there.
And until last year, Gaz was quite known for his System D record.
Yeah, so up until this Nationals just gone, I was like 3 wins out of 18 System D games or something at Nationals. So I've got quite the history of just like crashing out. But this year we won 4, so I've gone up to like 7 for.
We doubled his System D wins.
Yeah,
in one goal.
year.
Very good. Well, I think if there was a top 10 or even a top 5 for players that best players not to podium, you'd be in there, mate, for sure.
Thanks, I guess.
Yeah.
I've got some pre-nats trophies. I've come third at pre-nats a couple of times, but never really been at the top of the Zultek ladder. Best of the rest, I think, is where I'd slot in.
And I look forward to hearing about Surge. Are you guys like working together to like work your way up the ladder? Is it a development team? I don't know if I've played Surge because did they play in Hobart? No, because you played with Tanks in Hobart. Yeah.
Yeah, Hobart I was on Tanks and Snake was on Quackening.
Yeah.
We played. So this year was our first year Aubrey. We played our first year, and then next year we've got 3 of the same players, and we've got 3
new players.
So yeah, we're more of a development thing.
Yep.
But I think we can get into that when we start talking about the WA scene later.
Yeah,
we've got
a lot to say there.
A lot of stuff to talk in that regard.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, some of our viewers would have already met Commander Snake. Went to FinNats recently and did some great videos for everybody to watch. Commander Snake, thanks for coming along and tell us all about your journey.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, I'm Snake. I got into laser tag probably 2018, 2019. And just at a local league level down at Willerton League. And yeah, after a couple years, Gaz pulled me onto a Nats team, WA Hellhounds, for the Bendigo Nationals, 2021.
22? 22.
22.
21 was Rumble.
21 was Rumble, yeah. So 2022, and since then I've played the 3 Nationals since then, and the Finn Nationals that was this year. And yeah, I don't have as much of a history in it to talk as Gaza, but I just
6 years is still a long time.
Yeah.
Like, in the grand scheme of things.
But yeah, so I've been playing. I was just kind of on the cusp of really getting into the sport as we had a 3 league. We'll get into it later, but we had a 3 league system, so 3 nights a week a league, and I kind of got into it just as we transitioned to 1 night a week a league. So that was 2-3 years ago. So yeah.
So yeah, something like that. I don't remember
probably
exactly
2
when it was. Yeah, 2 years
so, yeah.
ago.
Yeah, well, I remember watching your commentary at Bendigo, actually, because I didn't go to Bendigo, and I was very impressed with your insight, and you have a really good grasp on the game for the short amount of time you've been in it. That's what it appears like from the outside. I haven't really played a lot against you and stuff like that, but it feels like you're a bit of a thinker, Snake.
He's a big brain man.
He's a big brain man, yeah.
Yeah. So this year I'm making him GCR games, mostly because he won't stop thinking about it when he's not GCing. So I'm just like, you know what? Just do it. and that way, because you're going to think about it anyway. I know you're going to.
So
I'll
yeah,
just make you do it.
yeah, we'll get into some more of the reasons for that in a bit, I reckon. Because
that's it.
Yeah,
that's the only reason. But yes.
Oh no, I think.
And no one else wants to play 5, so I'm doing it.
That's the other reason.
Nobody wants to play 5?
Last line.
Yeah,
Last line. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Because
Gaz are in the last line. That's a surprise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of defaulted it.
It's definitely my worst role. But I'm trying.
Yeah. We'll yeah.
I'm trying. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, it sounds like you guys have got a lot that you want to share. So let's roll up the sleeves and get into it. Where do we want to start here? Why don't we just start with kind of how you guys run things in WA, I guess, because it is a very unique situation. You've got multiple sites. You kind of got you got 3 sites as Laser Blaze. Is your site at PK Port Kennedy still a Laser Blaze site, or is it a different brand now?
We're just called Laser Force now. Well, Laser Force PK, I guess, is our official name. So Wombat still owns 3 sites. They're sort of like up the city. So for those people who don't know Perth, it's a very long city. Like it's literally like a 2-hour drive from top to bottom, and maybe a half-hour drive across the side. So we've got kind of like 4 sites up and down. So the one right at the top isn't really built for playing zone games. The arena's not set up for it. So we don't play there really. But it is one of the sites Wombat owns. So then we've got the next one down, Malaga. That's like 20 minutes north of the city.
Yep.
That we play at, and then we've got Willerton. That's like 20 minutes south of the city, of like the CBD. And then we've got PK, this one here, the Iron. That's 55 minutes south of the CBD.
So yeah,
50 minutes southish. So they're kind of like all spread out. But a lot of our like league players play at all of them. We have
other than Joondalup.
Other than Joondalup, yeah. We have quite a lot of drivers, I guess.
Yeah.
But so a couple of years ago, like we were saying, two years ago, back when Wombat still owned this site, we had 3 leagues running, like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday at the 3 different stores. So there was like overlap between the players, and some people played all 3, some people played just 2, or like that sort of stuff. And a lot of people played just one as well, whichever was their like closest one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were sort of we were like struggling to get numbers. Like a couple of the leagues were down to like 4 teams. So Wombat made the decision to like swap to just one night of league a week, and then it would rotate between the stores. So we did like a season at Malaga, and then next season would be at Willerton, and then etc. And it like rotated. So we did that for a bit, and then I bought this store, and we were just like, we want to play more laser tag than once a week, so obviously we're going to start our own league night. So now we have a league here that's here every season, and then Wombat's league rotates between Malaga and Willerton sort of every season, so every 3 months, and it sort of flip flops between the two. Currently at Willerton, so next season we'll be at Malaga, etc. So we still play like 2 nights of league a week. Or at least the zone format.
Zone format league, yeah.
Yeah, so zone format league. We don't play base evac at Wombat stores.
No.
I guess is probably the biggest difference for like zone listeners who might be like, why would you not play base evac? How does the game work without it? But the bases are kind of set up. They're like bigger, and they don't have like such a base area. They have more like spot specific gameplay, so you can like sit in a spot and defend, and then when you run out of power, you go reload, like that sort of stuff. Which I think is like it's definitely different. Whereas like here, it wasn't set up for base evac until I took over and started moving the panels around. So now we do play base evac as league down here at Port Kennedy. So we've got that kind of two. It's the same game format, but it plays quite differently.
Definitely.
And our arenas are all set up quite different too. So like down here, we've got a 1-story arena, a lot of full heights. It's really like sort of tight knit, kind of like, like Adelaide type gameplay from like 2017, where it's all quite close together. And then we've got Willerton, which is like still quite a small arena, but it's 2 stories in a lot of places, including in the bases. And there's a lot of like long sight lines and like snipey kind of things, but it's still quite close together. And then we've got
And there's Malaga.
and then there's Malaga, which is like, oh, that's my phone. And then we've got Malaga that's like, it's like a really big arena. I think it's the biggest square meter arena in Australia. I've heard Wombat say that before, but that was some years ago, so it might have changed. But it's like 1,000 square meter arena. It's 2 stories, so there's like massive ramps and stuff. They make like a big H shape in like massive ramps. It's very snipey.
Very snipey.
It takes you forever to run from red to yellow because they're like on opposite ends of the arena. I always forget how big Malaga is until I've like sprained my ankle or something. I don't want to run at League, and I've got to like walk to the reloader. I'm like, oh my god, it's gonna be 45 seconds to walk to the reloader and back.
Yeah.
Because it's just so far when you're not like at a full sprint. So we have kind of like 3 very unique like play styles in terms of arena, which is really good.
It is.
Yeah, it's really helpful for learning new arenas. I keep telling all our new players, like, you got to come play all 3 arenas, because the more arenas you learn to play, the faster you learn to play new arenas, which really helps when you go to nationals. And you kind of like, well, I've got 2 weeks to learn this arena.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember I came back home once to visit family, and I did 1 league night at Malaga, and I've never played an arena like that. It's insane.
Yeah.
What
and
happens with
the floor?
it's just so big. Has it still got the aeroplane and stuff in there?
Yeah. It's still got that big like crash plane barricade and stuff. It's a very cool looking arena. I quite and it's
great
like,
for public play.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's great for public play. It's great for a lot of game modes. It's not super great for League. I mean, I still enjoy it because it's kind of like my home arena. I guess it's like where I started playing. I played there for probably 7 years before I went to another one. And it's really good for like positioning training because there's a lot of like long sidelines. So you kind of like, there's a guy over there and he's like a 10-second run away, and I need to just like position myself somewhere else because I can just sit behind this panel and start shooting the base, and he can't do anything about it because he's too far away. But if you're like not taking that into account, you're just getting shot by him. Like, you're just getting sniped from everywhere. So you kind of like have to use your brain a bit and be like, there's a guy over there, so I've got to sit behind this panel, and there's a guy over there. You can't just like brute force your way through every interaction, I guess.
So what happens with so do you notice when you take a player that's a Malaga native, they're a new player, they're a Malaga native, and you take them for the first time to another arena? What's that like?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting seeing all the people with different like play styles and ways they've kind of like come up to play the game, and putting them in another arena where that specific thing like doesn't work right, or so I think like we have a lot of like Malaga natives that are so used to like the size, and you can kind of sit back and snipe people and get like crazy TRs because you're just like very far away from the action. And then you come play at like Willerton, where it's like a similar thing. You can still snipe, but everything is so much closer together that there's normally always someone interacting with you. And they kind of like not fall apart, but like get scared. Because there's a lot of people that are like, I just want to like hang out sort of 20 meters from the base, shooting people, blah, 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 doing my thing. And then there's nowhere really to do that where you're not in the action. And the same in reverse, like a lot of like Willerton players, will come to Malaga and be like, why is this arena so big? Why is there someone 30 meters away shooting me? Like, I should be able to win interactions with the people that are near me because, I can kind of see them. But you've got to, like, keep track of people that are so much further away. Yeah. And it sort of brings that thing. And then they come down here and it's another completely different play style where everything is in your face and you're always having those interactions. The further sightlines we've got are probably, like, in the red-yellow half at least, like, 5 or 6 meters maybe. Yeah. 4 panels.
And you've got base evac.
Yeah, and base evac, which is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
It's really interesting seeing people come from not base evac to trying to play base evac and their kind of interactions with that. I mean, we've seen that a lot over the years because we've never really had base evac as a league. And we've always been like, we're going to do some NATS training, we're going to do some base evac. And seeing how people like interact with that. And just now we've had one person who started playing League here, base evac, who has come to Willerton to go from base evac to not base evac, and it's I keep asking them about it because I'm like, I've seen this interaction the other way so many times, but now it's like base evac to not. what's your vibe, you know?
Yeah, what did they say?
Really, I can't remember. It just says they're like, you know, it just feels weird to them, you know.
Yeah.
It's a different way to play the game, and I think going from like not basic evac is kind of like a slower game style. You don't have to like lunge people. You don't really need to lunge or like hold a panel. Really, there's a lot more dueling. So kind of like taking that out of the gameplay is strange, but also like adding it in is really obvious for people who have never done it. Who are like, how am I supposed to get this person off this panel? Because you know they're not used to the like lunging and the holding kind of gameplay.
We actually did a nationals at Willetton in 2008, and it's a very memorable nationals for a couple of reasons. But one of the reasons is because it was one of the only nationals we had with spot evac.
Okay.
Did they continue with spot evac in leagues, or did they just kind of can that?
Spot evac is when you die, you have to leave the spot. It's like base evac, but
no, but
tiny.
it's only enforced on reloads.
Yeah. So if you're out of power, you have to leave your spot and get reload.
Yeah.
Like you would at zone nationals if you're outside the base. But we have played.
There's a lot of one-man zones.
There's a lot of one-man zones. But again, you can just stand in them until you run out of power.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like queuing for the one-man zones and that sort of stuff. We played a little bit of spot evac a couple of years ago when we were doing training for nationals at Willetton, because we tried to like jury rig base evac into it. It didn't really work. So we were like, we'll try playing spot evac, because then at least you can still like hold panels and lunge people and stuff. And then that also wasn't really working. So we were just playing games like sort of the way the arena intended. But that was a couple of years ago now, 2017, something like that.
Well, the other thing that was in play when I was there last was 3 shots a second. Is that still in play?
Yeah. So a couple of years ago, might have been 2 or 3 years ago, Wombat finally changed his settings to be more like Ziltak. So we used to play 6 second DX and 3.5 shots a second, which is really like fast paced way to play. But we've since recently changed to the 8 second DX 2 shots a second. Which is like, I'm not sure if it's better for newer players, but I think it has a higher skill ceiling at least. Because the way that 3.5 shots a second works is you kind of just like walk up to people while you're dead, pull your trigger as fast as you can, and try and kill them. And then they're also doing the same thing to you because they can shoot really fast. So you just kind of spam people while they're dead and then kill them. But with 2 shots a second, it adds a little bit of skill to that interaction, which is good for people that have been playing for a little bit and kind of are looking to improve their skill. Like, how do I win duels? How do I like improve my gameplay to actually like win these interactions rather than just kind of walking up to people and rolling the dice? Which is good for people that have never played, because then they can walk up to anybody and roll the dice and maybe win duel, which helps get people in, but then like helping keep people around. When they've been playing for a year and they're kind of like, well, how do I improve now? It's definitely better for that to have that kind of skill ceiling. But it's definitely been interesting having league players go from 6 second DX to 8 second DX, because you kind of just like, you kill everybody and then be like, man, do I have time to shoot the base? And then you're like, actually, I've got 2 extra seconds. Away I go.
Because my first couple nationals, it was my first nationals, it was very much a case of like, wouldn't have as much of, I'd be trying to get the base in that first extra bit because I'd been so used to 6 second DX the entire time. So it was like,
it's very relaxing.
Yeah.
You just get in the base and you're just like, oh man, wait.
I've got so much time.
I've got tons of time.
So
it's not a terrible idea training under 6 second DX, I reckon. Like if you're going to do like a Swedes or something like that where they call it base run, where you're just all at a base attacking it and trying to get it as many times as you can or something like that. I love playing on 6 second DX because like it's kind of like that whole old, train under harder sort of circumstances than what you're going to play under kind of theory, right?
Yeah.
We'll train 6 second DX 1 shot a second.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, because then there's also another big difference across our sites, which Gaz hasn't mentioned, is that we're actually on 2 separate laser force systems.
Oh yeah,
okay. Talk about that.
So we here have Gen 7, so Generation 7.
Yeah.
And Wombat sites have Gen 8, which is like the next one, obviously, numbers. So Gen 8 is like more like H2, where you can like, there's like a barrel sensor, and it's all like updated. The guns have screens on them. Whereas Gen 7, there's like no gun screen, there's no barrel sensor, so you can like cover your phaser and shoot around panels, kind of like H Pro. So we've got that kind of difference as well. There's not really much other difference. The
Gen 8's a lot
slightly different.
The timing's a bit different.
That's also because the timing settings are different on Wombat's leagues.
Yeah, that's true. But also, like even the difference between going from Willow Gen 7 to Gen 8 was quite a difference.
Yeah,
and there's also like with Gen 8, it's a lot kind of boxier, and there's a lot more of a kind of like, it feels like it's more sensitive, not just in terms of the IR, but like you can just shoot people in a kind of bigger bubble.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot more reflex in terms of like, you shoot someone in the face and it might hit their shoulder, stuff like that. Like,
that's what I found when Willerton changed to Gen 8 in 2020, I was running their league. So I like actually sat down like the league night we got Gen 8, and like tested a bunch of stuff so I could come to league players and be like, this is what to expect is different. And I remember finding that shooting people off the roof was harder, but shooting people off the walls was easier. So you could like reflect people off the like brick walls and stuff easier, but shooting people off the roof was harder.
It was quite interesting. No. Gen 7 was so much easier to roof shoot people.
Yeah, because you can shoot people off.
But also,
crazy.
Yeah, because Willerton as well. It's I think the only site which, well, I guess Malaga's not explicitly banning it, but I can't think of any other site I've played anywhere which allows roof shooting, because I think Willerton, like, roof shooting is just such an integral part of being able to contest some of those high ground. Yeah,
because you can, it is 2-story and the ceiling is like most laser tag arenas that just like insulation foil.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of places where you can shoot people off the roof, but also the bases are kind of designed in a way where that's okay.
Yeah.
Like especially Willerton Red Base, you probably remember Bootza, it's exactly the same as it's always been. But it's kind of like you've got like a U-shaped fort that's like a 2nd story, and then the base like down the bottom. So there's places under the fort you can hide, but if you want to shoot the base, you kind of have to be exposed to the fort upstairs. But it's quite easy to shoot people off the roof in the fort. And I don't think Red Base would really work if you couldn't, because then the fort would be too strong, and it would also be too hard to enforce because you've got to shoot up at these people anyway. So you're kind of like, if you're trying to shoot them in the gun, you're kind of directly shooting where you would shoot them off the roof, and then you're going to kill them anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would really work without roof.
I never thought I'd be an advocate for roof shots, but Red Base at Willerton, I'd have to say yes, definitely thumbs up for roof shots.
I think any 1-story arena does not make sense to have any kind of roof shooting. But this Willerton, it makes sense.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to protect. You wouldn't actually be able to protect yourself unless you could actually do it. So
yeah, exactly. It wouldn't be balanced. But here at PK with our 1-story arena, we've got the same roof, and we're just like roof shots. No. If we see you shooting at the roof, you're out, sort of thing. Because you definitely can shoot people off the roof, but you're just not allowed to.
So the whole Gen 7 v Gen 8 thing's interesting. So Gen 7's more like H2, where you've got to be kind of more accurate. Would you say?
I think that's also it's in part 2 things, like we have our IR set lower and our packs are much older, because the Gen 7 packs here are like, they're at least 8 years old. I'm not sure if they were here when Wombat bought the place in 2016. Some of them might have been. So they're quite old, which, that degrades the IR emitters.
But they still work quite well.
Yeah, they still work fine.
Yeah.
And we can change the IR and stuff, but we have it set so you've got to be like decently accurate.
Yeah.
Probably more so than on H Pro for sure. Like a similar level to H2, I guess.
But one of the biggest differences between like Helios and Laser Force is obviously the shoulder. Having the shoulder on top of the shoulder rather than on the front of your shoulder, it does make it quite a lot easier to hit people, because like especially from the back, you can't have like anything kind of hanging out shoulder wise.
It's a lot. It sort of takes away that like reverse paneling that's kind of come in the last few years at Zultag, where you're like sticking your shoulder out and looking over your shoulder, like kind of thing. It takes that away mostly because the shoulder's just like here. There's not much you can do. I still do it a decent amount, but you have to like your body position's different. You got less vision.
For sure.
It doesn't really change. You can still like do high holds and stuff. It just kind of changes like where you put your arm. So instead of like tucking it in to protect like here, you're like you can just stick it out because your shoulder's like behind your bicep kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you can still like panel. It's just you just do like a different kind of like hold. Yeah, it's just a very slightly different type of hold.
Do some of your local players have a preference between Gen 7 and Gen 8? Or is there a general
I would say that
favorite?
most of our like Nat scene prefers Gen 7.
Yeah, I think most of them. Yeah, but it's hard to tell because it's also like settings dependent, and like because we have different like React settings to Wombats leagues with Gen 8 and stuff like that, and it's arena dependent, and it's all those kind of biases.
Yeah.
I definitely prefer Gen 7, but that's mostly because like that's the system I got good on, and I think most people will prefer the system they got good on. Like if you call Arbel up and you're like, hey Arbel, what system do you prefer? And he's like, V4 because I'm a million years old, you know, that sort of thing. Like most people will prefer what they got good on. If you asked some of like newer like Gen 8 centered players, people like Diggy, who's on our Nats team this year, he's going to Nats for the first time this year.
Artemis.
People like Artemis. Yeah, some of the newer Nats players we've got that have kind of started playing on Gen 8, they might prefer it. I know, Diggy especially, a lot of the people that from Malaga, they kind of like get good at the timing of Gen 8, because Gen 8 is a bit, I don't know if it's just specifically Wombat's settings, but it's a bit blackpackier than Gen 7. So it's a bit easier to like just kill people who are dead, which I think is also sort of partly because of the settings, but also partly because of the hardware. I don't know if it's just because it's new or because that's just how it works. It would require more investigation. I don't have any Gen 8 packs that I can just sit down and mess around with.
But yeah, I think the majority of like the Nat scene would prefer Gen 7, and in terms of the league scene, I think it would probably be split.
Yeah, it depends on who you asked. as to what their personal opinion was, because there's definitely people that are like, I hate the idea of covering your gun, so I much prefer Gen 8 because I can just get gun tags on everybody. Whereas there's like, you know,
Gen 8 does support like you can basically stand out in the open and ding people off like a lot more things than Gen 7, where you can, you know, like someone's holding a panel on Gen 8, you can be standing in the open and very easily
get the gun tag. Which is kind of, you could kind of do that on H2.
It's comparable to, like, you know, if you were to ask people whether they preferred H Pro or H2. Like, there are definitely arguments for both, and definitely a large fan base for both. But yeah,
because H2's winning the game. I think most people are like, oh my god, going back to H Pro is so hard. Even all of us Queenslanders who, you know, are H Pro natives, there's a big chunk of us now. H2 is pretty good, really good.
Yeah, and I suspect we'll probably have that with Gen 8 as well. It's just adjusting to how being able to be shot in the gun changes your gameplay. Because, you know, on gun covering systems, you just kind of like sit there with your gun.
I would argue that people can't even really high hold on Gen 8.
Well,
every time
get shot in the gun.
Yeah,
because it's quite easy to shoot to like pre-fire people's guns. So if you're doing a high hold,
or even in the shoulder,
in a very specific
like
place.
You can't cover your shoulder like you can on Gen 7.
Yeah, clearly you haven't seen me, man.
I have.
I can cover Gen 8 shoulder.
What's the barrel sensor? Is it like the same sensitivity as H2, like super sensitive, or is it just?
Oh, I'd argue more.
Oh, really?
I reckon it's easier to shoot a Gen 8 phaser than it is to shoot a H2 phaser.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
because the Gen 8 phaser, it's kind of like a weird square shape, which also makes it awkward to like cover. Because at least with the H2 phaser, you can still like cover the top and the bottom sensors with your hand.
It's just the barrel sensor.
It's just the barrel, but the Gen 8 one is quite awkward to get that to really work. Just because it's like a pistol shape, but it's also like square. So it's like a square pistol, which makes it hard to wrap your hand around.
Is there any like laser force centric positions, or you know how we've got what you were mentioning before on zone, we back up to panels because the shoulders are on the front. Is there anything like laser force specific that you guys, if we came over, we would have to learn like this new skill or something?
Yeah, so I think tipping sideways, or at least what I refer to in my head as
yeah.
teapotting, because it reminds me of the like I'm a little teapot dance, because you just kind of like tip sideways. Because like the shoulder sensors are more sensitive than the chest and the back, just because they have more IR emitters in them. So like tipping sideways is like the best way to like win duels against people in a low hold. But also you can do what I've come to refer to as me-sixing after Mr. Me-six, where the wider audience can like turn sideways in a spot and just kind of like panel by being really round, which is something I do. You don't even have to be that round, because like I'm kind of round, but I'm not that round. And so you can do that, whereas you can't really do that on Helios, where you can kind of like be straight on with someone, but you're against a wall, just like tip sideways, and they're like, "Why can I not shoot you? I can just see your entire body." Kind of thing.
There's definitely a couple spots in the PK maze where you can take a panel against someone and like who you can see the entirety of them, mainly like Gaza and Cameron.
Yellow box,
Yellow box, red box, like and you just can't hit them because they're just like side on and you can't see their shoulder. Like there's probably people who could, like really tall people.
Yeah, but tall people you just like shoot them in the shoulder even if they're tipped sideways. But for shorter people it's can be quite annoying.
You just can't. And by shorter, like
we mean like regular size.
Yeah.
Like 6'2" is probably too short. Well, actually that's probably tall enough. But 5'11" is too short to get that kind of shoulder shot. But that's also like the nature of the panels we have, because all of our panels here, they're a wood frame with one piece of wood. So every side of them has like a wood beam that lip that you can like tuck your sensors into. Whereas like other arenas, like Sunny Coast, for example, the one we were just at for Prenats, has a panel on both sides. So there's no like lip on the edge of all the panels, which makes your paneling kind of weird.
Compared to,
and interesting. Because there's a lot of like dueling around the panels. If you're on the lip side, you've kind of got the advantage because you can tuck your chest into it and stuff. But it does
a lot of the zone arenas used to be like that as well back in the day, and that was the whole thing, getting your shoulders in there. And we actually took them all out simply because remember the old, you might not remember Snake, but the old infusion shoulders stick up here, so people would get their shoulders in there, then they'd run off, and just like the shoulder would stay attached to the wall, and the player would take off, so you'd end up with pack parts all over the floor. But
that's infusion. The infusion used to do that a lot. I remember one time I was running along and my back panel just opened up and my battery fell out. I didn't even do anything. I was just like jogging.
I remember we'd have to sometimes go with the torch through the arena looking for the battery during games to try and get the pack back together so we could continue playing. Like it was, we've come a long way. But, all right. Well, I look forward to hearing. We're going to talk a little bit more about the adjustments required when we talk a little bit later about Nats that you guys have got to take on. But I'm curious to hear a little bit about like your involvement with the Laser Force scene, and also from what I understand, there's a game. Is it called Laser Ball? A game that they've been playing a lot of. Yeah. It's kind of like you tag a player, which means you pass the ball to them, and then you get a shot into the base to like score a goal kind of situation. Yeah,
it's very similar to Zone Ball. If you've ever played that, Zone has a very similar game mode and have for a while. Whereas Laser Ball is like Laser Force's brand new version of it. So like it's like at least when we play it, it's like a 2-team game. You have like a base each. You like shoot your base to start the round, so like you literally can't shoot unless you shoot the base, and then one person gets the ball. So like if you don't have the ball, you like lights are solid, and if you do have the ball, they're like all flashy. And you get points by shooting your opponent's base while you've got the ball. But you can shoot your own players to like pass the ball to them. You can shoot enemy players who have the ball to steal the ball off them, and you can still like shoot other players and stuff. So
people still get deactivated,
so you can still like shoot. If you don't have the ball, you can shoot enemy players and that sort of stuff. And then, once you score the goal, the round resets, you go back to your base, someone gets the ball again, and away you go until the time runs out. So it's really fun. It's really good for like new people because it's really intuitive, because it's very just like, this is soccer, but with lasers.
I thought it was a good move because like obviously SM5 is such a like minimum barrier to entry to understand it, and it's complex, and there's got all these different roles and everything like that. I thought it was quite smart that they created a version of the game which is much easier to kind of digest, I guess, for new players, and started playing it more competitively. Is it something that they've been playing like at an international level or at least interstate level?
I'm not sure. I know in Europe they do a lot of laser ball competitions. So like Germany has like quite a big laser ball scene these days, where they've got like trophies and prizes and all that sort of stuff for playing laser ball. I don't think the current international sort of laser force scenes have adopted it so much. Like the ones that are kind of like stuck in their Space Marine sort of playing ways. It's I feel like there's definitely sometimes I've seen them on their like Facebook groups like, should we like play laser ball for a little bit as a side event at this comp? And a lot of them are just like, no, I only play Space Marines. And some of them are like, yeah, cool, like let's do a side event, like that'd be cool. So I think it's probably it's kind of in a similar place as like Zultek base flags, where it's like a very different, like it's different gameplay. And some people are into that, some people aren't. We do it as a league here, so we have a zone league and then a laser ball league as well on like a different night, where we just like do random teams. We play like 3v3 in just one half of our maze, so it's really like tight and sort of fast paced kind of like gameplay. And we get some people down for it. Anywhere between 9 and 18 people come down a week. We've got some players that only come to Laser Ball League. We've got a couple of kids that come down for it, whereas like everybody else is just kind of like ported from the other league. Because I think it's definitely a step in the right direction in terms of competitive game.
It's a lot more watchable.
Because that's what I've been saying about the Zultek format for a while. Is like it's not watchable. It's very hard to watch if you don't know what's going on. There's no like single point of focus like most sports have. There's stuff happening everywhere. Whereas like laser ball, at least it brings it back to that. There's a single point of focus. You can watch this happen. I'm really interested to see what we can do with it, especially if we end up with a player tracking system. Which is something I want to do in the next year or two, is get a player tracker, kind of like the guys in New Zealand have, because I think that would make laser ball specifically really cool to watch. And I think it's definitely a step in the right direction in terms of like sport level laser tag. But I'm not sure if the international guys play it that much. They're all we like Space Marines and we play Space Marines. Which is
I think it's really interesting that you've got some players that only play it, and it's a really good example of like people get into the game formats. They don't get into necessarily the system like Laser Fourth or Zone or whatever. People get into the actual format, which is what you see on video gaming, right? People get their favorite games that they like to play and they play the hell out of them, right? And I recently did an interview with Grant from PNC, so there'll be by the time ours comes out, hopefully it'll be released, but a H3 reveal. So H3's been released. He's kind enough to jump on and give us a tour of the system and everything like that. And he was saying that in the US, what some of the sites have started doing is having kind of like posters up around the venue saying, this month we're playing this game format, and they kind of make it like a feature movie kind of thing. So everybody knows that we're going to be like featuring this particular game this month on these particular nights and stuff like that. I think it's it's kind of relatable in the fact that, that's the way gamers kind of think. They think about games formats rather than this venue or that venue or this system or that system. It's more about the format. So, I look forward to seeing, how that develops. And certainly, have you guys got cameras at your site?
Yes.
Yeah, and I've been moving them around so they're better for laser ball.
Yeah, cool.
I'd love to start streaming it and stuff. At the moment, we need a bit more of a better setup, as you can probably tell, given that we're currently in the storeroom. I need a bit more of a space I can do that. I need internet run through the store stuff.
Once if you get it. Sorry, I was just going to say, if you get it sorted, and you want to run like a WA comp on or something, let us know, and we'll we'll promote it and stuff, so everybody can kind of tune in, and it'd be good to get people's feedback and stuff about quality of the broadcast and what they enjoyed on that game style rather than the zone format. Sorry, Snake, I cut you off.
Yeah, you're all good. I was just going to say we did manage to start streaming our qualifying comp last weekend.
Yeah.
We had a bit of a jerry rig set up for that as well, but I think like the stream setup here is quite good now. Like like as soon as we have a more permanent kind of,
I need somewhere I can leave the PC set up.
Yeah.
Because so last weekend we did our week 3 of our 4-week performance comp, and I had the stream set up because the week before that I just kind of had it streaming and it just ran.
Yeah.
And then last week I had like commentary set up and like a camera and like different scenes and stuff they could swap to. But we were in the briefing room, and our briefing room's quite dark. So if you go back and watch it, the camera's really dark and the microphone's pretty bad, and it's like bleeding in from the arena. You can hear people yelling in the arena and stuff. And so there's definitely room for improvement, but it's really good to be able to like actually go back and watch the games and stuff. And watch kind of other people commentate the games and things like that. So yeah, we're getting there, but yeah, at the moment it's all very like set it up in the briefing room and then take it down for when the site opens the next day kind of thing. But yeah.
So what's the performance comp? Tell us about that.
So it's a way for us to determine which teams are going to nationals. So back when Zultak introduced their like team cap, they were like, you guys are going to have to like make a state association and work out who's going and like qualify teams and all that sort of stuff. And at that time, I know that there's quite a few different ways of sort of states the way they do their performance, but when we first sort of made the idea, we were like, we really don't want people picking. We don't want like to have any sort of bias in that regard. So we've got quite a complicated like participation tracker and things like that. So like when people come to league, they get participation points and stuff like that. But the main thing is we do a 4-week like performance tournament. So we like people sign up with their Nats teams, and then we play 24 games across 4 weeks. And we have like a ladder, and then the like top 2 teams get to go to Nats. And depending on how many like slots we get allocated from Zultak, the 3rd place team might get to go as well. So we do that. We normally do it. I think this year they're like 3 weeks apart. So we've just had the 3rd one, and then like a fortnight from now we'll have the 4th one. Despite the fact that we've already submitted the teams to Zultak because that was due on the 10th of November. So we're having the 4th week for basically no reason. But it's basically just a place for like the performance tournament is for that, but it's also it's a place where the nationals teams can like get together and actually play a stack of games as their Nats teams. Because really, when we do Nats training, I normally try and stray away from that, just because like we've got quite a skill gap between the teams, and that gets real boring real fast for all levels of the spectrum. But this year, it's actually been quite good. We've had quite a bit of like actual competition happening. So we've got 4 teams going to nationals this year, but we had 5 teams for the comp because we had a team of people that were like, we don't want to go to Nats, but we would love to play. And we were like, sure, we'll put you in the performance comp. If you win, you're not getting a spot, which is kind of what we did. So we had Sharks playing, and they won every game except one. And then our team, Surge, that beat everybody except Sharks in every game.
And one game where we lost to Slugs.
One game where we lost to Slugs. And we've got Slugs, which is the team that's not going to Nats, that beat us and Sharks once in one game.
Whoa, good on you, Slugs. Nice.
Yeah. So that team is like Weeb, Cowie, Mushu, Trill, and Gigantor. So they're like
ex-Nats players.
They're like ex-Nats players that aren't bad. They're just like not looking to go to Nats.
They're just keen for some high-level laser tag.
Keen to play some laser tag. So I'm to be honest, I'm not surprised that they took a game of us and off Sharks. Like they definitely can. So they took a game of us, and then Slugs, they're like the 3rd place team, lost to like the C and D team once each, and then the C and D team have like been beating each other, so they're kind of like neck and neck, but they've like lost to everybody else.
And that was Tsunami and Parasomnia.
Yeah, Parasomnia.
Parasomnia.
They've just recently renamed their team.
Yeah,
to Parasomnia. So we've kind of like got like like our team is like the B team, Sharks are like the A team, and then we've got 2 other like development type teams. One that's like full of all of our like new players, pretty much, and one that's like got a bunch of like returning players that don't play that much.
Yeah, a team that's got a ton of people who have like 3 or 4 nats under their belt.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got a bunch of teams, and yeah, it's just kind of like just doing a comp, play six games each a night, shoot the baddies.
Yeah,
is it all played at PK?
Yes. Yeah. We've been doing all here because here we've got the most nats like arena.
Yeah, most nats like settings and most nats like it's the only arena with base evac, and in terms of a nats, it doesn't really make sense to practice at or play at the other arenas.
Yeah,
I totally didn't prepare you for this question, but do you have an arena map on you on that computer?
Yeah.
Can you share it for us? Give us a quick tour.
Oh God, let's see. It's here somewhere.
It was right there. Go back to
Wait, what? Maze,
or is that not? That might be an old one. Go paint, yeah. Oh no.
So you should have a share button on your. Do you have a share button? Yeah.
Sure. Yes. Screen.
Just share the window.
Oh, sweet.
There we go.
There we go. Cool.
Zoom out a bit.
Oh yeah.
So we can't zoom any further.
Oh gosh, the Adelaide guys would be like, "Nah, this is huge. This is like Albury compared to our arena."
Yeah.
Oh,
it's not super small, but it kind of plays like it is. So we've got probably about 500 square meters. I would hope I should know, but it's about
a big arena. That's looks like Sunny Coast size.
It's probably a little bit bigger than Sunny.
Wow.
The main difference is there's a lot of sections of the arena which just get no play.
Yeah. Okay. So it's kind of broken into two.
Do you want to change the color to just something that's not? I usually just go pink.
So yeah, we've kind of got like 2 halves because our site is 2 units in a building, so it's kind of like split down the middle by a giant concrete wall.
Oh yeah.
So we've got like there's like a big wall down the middle here that has like 2 doorways. So it's kind of like we have like the red-yellow half and the blue half of the arena. And they're quite different because before Wombat took over in 2016, it was like one laser tag place in the one unit. So this side here is all like half heights and it's like jungle themed. It's a lot of like different like height half heights. And then this side is all like full heights with like panels that Wombat's made because he moved it into being a bigger arena in 2 separate units. So they have 2 very different vibes, pretty much, and the 2 doorways between them. So like at the moment, blue is really far away from the other 2 bases because like this run here is like 6 seconds between base doors. You can kind of like be in this area and like shoot this way and then like turn around and shoot this way and you're like sort of sniping both bases. But to get to blue, you've got to like go all the way around here, and it's also up ramps, so you've got to like go up this way and around here to get to the base door. But blue also has the advantage that like it's only got 2 entrances into its half, so you can literally just have like your last line player stands here, and your 4th player, like your second defender, stands there, and then the other 3 people are just like attacking. Which is like, it's an interesting dynamic. It normally means that blue is like the worst base because it's so far away and like you're quite out of the action if you're not like pushing out really aggressively. But it's it's fun.
Do you have like red and yellow? Like do you have like we call them the F -- width, but you'd have like a red or yellow player like wander into the blue side and just like go and start like standing out over in a corner somewhere, so the defenders like can't exactly leave them alone, but they're kind of just a pain in the butt because you need to put attention on them, otherwise they'll sneak your base. But
there's definitely sometimes you do that. Where like people they're like, let me just go. I'll have a look in here, and then all the last line and this guy and the 3rd defender gets called back, and they're like, "There's a guy in the base! Everybody panic!" And then you're just like, actually, I'm just like walking through it. I'm going to yellow. And then, 3 people have wasted all their time standing around. There's definitely some league games where people will come and like stand over here and just like hang out in the dead part of the maze. because this part of the arena doesn't really get used at all for league games.
Yeah, neither does like basically everything in the blue half but the base is not used for gameplay.
You walk to the reloader and that's it. You hang out like in this area.
Yeah,
because this is all half fight, so you can like hang out here and like get snipe shots into the base and like shoot this door as well. But if you want to actually go in the base, you've got to run all the way like around the ramps. So this area sees some play, especially when blue base is busier.
Yeah.
But this area is just for running through.
Yeah. Cool. Do you guys see much dumping in your arena?
Yeah, quite a bit.
To be honest, a lot of the games are really high base games anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's more of it's a symptom of like the bases being easy to attack.
Yeah, dumping is usually like, I feel like at a kind of high level would usually dump more for the pack aspect of it than the bases.
Yeah, there's definitely like blue strategies where you just leave and you just stack all 5 of your players in this half of the maze and just spread out and get pack and like split dump and stuff. But there's also like there is quite a bit of dumping just because our base, like Snake was saying, our base counts are quite high, just because our bases are quite easy to get into. So you can like, it's quite easy to have a count at home that's 8, and you're just like, well, why are we still here?
Like, I feel like a lot of the time in any given game, you'd expect a lot of teams' bases counts to be like 7 or 8 at the end of the game for like all 3 teams.
Yeah,
even without any dump have happened.
Yeah, which is good. I think it's fine. It might be a bit alien to some arenas, like especially like Queenslanders that might be used to a Sunny Coast arena where 2 bases go down, kind of thing. But I don't know. Well, personally, I prefer shooting the base.
I'm curious to know. So, what you guys would think if you stuck like the best teams in Australia in there, some of your best teams, whether you think the base count come down? Do you think?
It might come down a little bit.
Yeah, I think it would definitely would come down. I just don't think it would come down that much, because while all the bases are quite defendable, but they also all have like a very clear weak spot.
Yeah, so I've kind of designed them with like a specific, like if you do this like attacking setup with 2 attackers, it's quite easy. It's almost like impossible to not crack the defender.
Yeah, but that's always, you need to manage to have 2 people alive in that spot, and like you need to have beaten the door defender, and
Yeah, so the pins are quite powerful for like for pinning last lines and stuff. Like yellow front is probably the biggest example of that, because that doorway's really wide, and so like you'll defend from that top X like under the base, and if there's a guy alive in this pin, you can't do anything to stop players just walking in. And you can shoot the base from this pocket too. So like people will pin the like last line from this pin spot, and then your second player just walks in here and starts shooting the base. And the guy under the base is like, I'm still alive, but what am I going to do?
They have to go for it, but they're being pinned. So usually if they're tucked in properly, they're not going to hit that shot.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, if you've got 2 attackers and you set up your pin, you're in the base. But also like, there
is counterplay.
There's definitely counterplay. Like you've got defenders on the outside of the base. The guy going to this pin has no way to get there without being seen by the last line, so he's kind of got to walk in, die, stand in the pin, react, and you've got time for your outside defenders to like come and stand here or come and stand here and like actually stop that kind of setup. And I think this base, we only made this base a couple of months, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, something like that, and we're still kind of in the meta development phase of people sort of outside defenders sort of learning what they should do when there's 2 attackers stacking this door and that sort of stuff. And red's very similar. Like the pins are very aggressive. Like pinning from here, you can snipe. There's like a sight line here, so if someone's under the base watching this door, you can shoot them from this pin. Which I think is actually something we're going to get rid of, because I've heard a lot of feedback people don't like that.
Yeah.
But it makes red, like if you control the outside, you can quite like easily get onto the inside with like a little bit of coordination. And yellow's very similar. Blue we don't talk about. Blue's
not a great base.
Blue, hasn't really been changed since we took over yet, because we're planning on making a new blue base. We're gonna put a new base in here.
Oh, cool. We get tighter.
Currently, it's kind of like a Bendigo base where like you just have a sight line from door to door. So if the other door defender is alive, you can't walk in the base
because you just got two people looking at you.
Yeah, because there's a guy in the base who's like last lining from here, who's looking at you, and then a guy on the other door who's just staring at you and is a mile away. So you kind of have to like win both your doors and then go.
Yeah. So it's just kind of a case of, if you've got two players that win their duels on both doors, then you can pincer the guy inside and you'll get the base. But if you're not winning those two duels, you haven't got any kind of avenue to get inside.
Yeah. It kind of sucks. It's not too bad.
Like there's, as we were saying before, you can kind of like, blue is kind of forced to push out to get their pack rather than being able to hang around their base. So it's...
But it's also not currently the worst base. Like, if you look at our league stats, red is the worst base by a lot.
Yes.
Which is good, because that nowhere else in the world is red the worst base anywhere.
Finally, we have the red worst base.
I'm just like, we're, 7 weeks into league and red has 3 wins or something stupid.
Yeah.
So, blue's not the worst. It's just weird and kind of far away. But we're going to bring it closer. That's the plan.
I'd be interested. So for all our European and American viewers, Australia has this weird thing. It's Australasia, I should say, because it happened in New Zealand as well, where red base seems to be the strongest base most of the time. Like, we've had so many years. We had multiple years in a row. It was like 5 years in a row at one point where red base was just the statistically strongest base. And some of the years it was like 93% win rate. I think in Darwin it was ridiculous. Darwin, Launceston was the same. So I'd be curious to know from any of our US and European viewers whether that plays out over there as well. It might be just an Australasian anomaly. But one of the questions I did actually have for you guys was, if there was to be a zone, a Zeltac at a WA site, which site would it be? But I feel like you've already answered that.
It would be this one.
This one. Well, this is the best Zultak arena. I think you could probably ask pretty much anybody. There might be some really old people that are like, Wellington's better, but I
even
think
then
you'd be hard pressed to find them at this point. Maybe if you call Hybrid up, get him out of retirement, he might tell you Will. But like, that, and I'm significantly more on board with hosting Nats than Wombat is.
Yes.
Well, sell it to us, because that was another thing I wanted you to do. I wanted you to like put the full salesman outfit on and just go for it, mate. Tell us why we should have Nats back in WA sometime at Port Kennedy.
Yeah, so I definitely think it's an option. It's definitely something we can do. We've got the base. We've got the ability to change the arena. We've got a slide op that's on board because it's me. We've got our foyer's big enough. We can play all the formats. We've got a great location as well. The main problem is, well, actually, there's two main problems. The first one is that WA is far away, and everybody on the East Coast has to pay 6 times as much for their flight.
But so is New Zealand.
So is New Zealand. But New Zealand, is it cheaper to fly to New Zealand from from the Eastern States than to similar thing?
Similar, I would say.
Yeah, so it's a similar thing. And then obviously the other main problem is that we have Laser Force, and we will continue to have Laser Force for the foreseeable future. So if we are going to run a Zultak here, it would be on Laser Force, unless someone wants to donate us 24 zone packs. But I don't see that happening, and I don't see Laser Force being happy about it, but I honestly haven't asked them. But there's really no real difference to playing the game. So we've got a comp coming up, WA Clash, that I wrote a little FAQ for, because I'd love some Eastern States Zone players to come across. And like the differences between the game is that you can't shoot more than one person in a single shot, so you can't cannon people. And when you reload, you're always dead for 8.
Yeah, there's not you can't reload while dead like you can in Zone, and it's always 8 seconds.
And
you
it's
don't
always
have this 4 second stuff,
and that's it. Like the timing's the same. the shooting's the same, the bases are the same. I mean, they're a different shape, but they work exactly the same. You know, and your shoulders are on top.
Yeah.
Your pack's a different shape.
I would say it's like the difference between, you know, playing Nexus and playing H2. Like,
Yeah,
same format, different shape pack, but different shape gun.
different timing. That's literally it. The server doesn't crash.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I love that you threw that one in there.
Yeah.
There are some advantages over
Yeah.
Zone.
Your tags don't go missing because of reverse IR. They literally can't.
Stop now. Grant from PNC will never go on my pod again if we keep talking about these things. No,
I don't know if that's gotten any better since the new software updates. I would hope it had, because I remember hearing horror stories, or at least horror stories to my ears from a couple of years ago. They're like, yeah, you know, if our tolerance for missing packets is like 4, so, you know, any game that's within 600 points, just who knows. But like on Laser Force, because of the way reverse IR works, like your gun receives the IR and the pack's emitted. If you shoot somebody, it's your pack going, hey, server, you got to kill that guy. And then the server tells the pack to die. So, like, anytime you shoot someone and their lights turn off, the server knows you've killed them. Because, like, their lights don't turn off unless the server tells them to, which is really good. So, yeah, I hope... I don't know much about Ozone, but I hope that's not a problem anymore. I don't
know the official stats from the most recent Nats because I didn't go at Albury, but I presume it's getting better because they're only improving this. It's no longer a test thing anymore. Ozone's kind of been like, you know, in development or even, you know, early development, I guess, for a couple of years, but now it's kind of out of that phase. It's kind of like pretty, you know, road tested and sturdy. So I think it was much better in Albury is what I understand, but I don't know 100%. It wasn't there.
We have quite a Laser Force has quite a sophisticated like zone emulation game format where I can literally just change like all the settings about everything. So when your lights play, when you can be shot, when you can shoot, how long you shoot for,
when the sound happens,
when the sound plays, like
lockout,
all of that,
all the lockout stuff.
I can add like trigger lockout. I can add black pack time. I can add like literally everything. I can change how long you shoot for when you pull the trigger. I can change like a setting we've just recently changed is shooting people in the past because there's a setting called shot active time, which we were kind of talking about a little bit earlier, where it changes how long your gun shoots for when you pull the trigger, and you kind of have to have a certain amount of that to maintain long range accuracy. Because if it's like 0.01, then you just like can't shoot people that are too far away because you don't, like, most of the time you don't get their lock on. So we changed the setting from like 170 ms worth of shot active time so that you could, like, you know, drag shots across like 170 ms. We've changed it so that it's now 70 ms of shot active time and 100 ms of lock on duration so that you can shoot people retroactively. So if your gun has seen them in the last 100 ms, you can pull the trigger and kill them.
Doesn't make many.
It makes basically no difference except that when you react, obviously the packs don't emit IR while they're dead. So the time you pull the trigger when you're like black packing people is shorter. Because it's harder to black pack people, basically.
That's why we added.
Which is why we've done that.
Not for shits and gigs.
I can change that. I can change the IR of the packs as well. So we currently play at 12% IR. We're still yet to play a test game with 100%. That would be really funny. So like, we can change everything. If you want to play with Nexus timing with, you know, 400 ms of black pack time, we can do that. If you want to play with, you know, 100 ms of black pack time, or like not 100, but like, you know, 1000 ms, we can do that. If you want to play with resets, we can do that.
You better stop, mate. I'm going to want to trade my Pro in at this point. With all these.
Yeah, well, it's cheaper than Zone as well. But
so, have you got like a date or anything, or is this more of a concept idea that you're putting together at the moment about the Clash?
So I've got a date for the WA Clash. We're doing the 28th and the 29th to the 30th. It's of March. So it's a weekend. We're doing a weekend. Basically, we're just doing a pre-nats. So Friday night training, games Saturday, Sunday, sort of from the afternoon till night, because I'm not expecting to get that many teams that would have to play in the morning. So we're doing that in March.
It's posted in the Zone laser tag state comps.
Yeah,
So
a couple of days ago, I posted in that Facebook group a link to the event. I've put it in the Rampage Discord as well, I think. So you can kind of like sign up. We're doing the rego is $600, but if you don't live in WA, it's $600 for your team. But if you don't live in WA, it reduces the rego cost by $200.
Cool.
So if you have 3 interstate players that want to come over, your team plays free.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, you're gonna have to pay for your flight.
Yeah.
For the interstate players, and I want people to come across and sort of experience play some WA laser tag. Pretty much. Come and see how the other half live.
It's awesome. Like, it's an awesome first step. I think like the getting a Nats back in WA is like a multi-step process, and I think this is like the first step of doing it, is to familiarize everybody with what system you've got, the arena. It's a good arena, it's in a good venue, tick all those boxes, and get the whole community talking about it, and essentially selling the idea to the other half of the community that couldn't make it. So I think it's an awesome idea, and we'll promote the crap out of it too on our socials and everything for you guys as well.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. Yeah.
And is there any like team restrictions or anything? Are you trying to limit? No, just put in whatever team you want.
Yep. Bring anybody you want. Bring your interstate friends. I've kind of been gently nudging Sharks to not just put their whole team in, because they're not just going to win every game. That'd be boring.
Yeah.
And probably same as us. Like, we won't play as Surge, just so that we've got a bit more competition, and it's a bit more interesting. I'm kind of hoping that the cost incentive will incentivize sort of teams of 3 WA players and 2 or 3 like interstate players, that kind of thing, so that WA can kind of split up and not have to pay $600 to play. That's kind of where that's coming from, just so we can kind of get the word out and be like, hey, we don't always have to play zone formats on zone, because I think that, like, more in a big picture type of thing, I think me personally, I'd rather Zultak move in a direction where we're not tied to a manufacturer. Because that's like it's an important step in terms of like becoming a sport, is to kind of disassociate from a specific manufacturer and stick more specifically to like a game format.
Yeah.
And for me, the zone in Zultak stands for the game format, not necessarily the equipment we use, because like what we have here is a good example of like, it can be played on multiple systems. And I'm sure there are other systems that may or may not have zone emulation formats, because I know we've got emulation formats for like Photon.
Yeah.
We've got, there's another one as well, I think, that we've never played, where like, it would be a good step forward for the comp to sort of open its doors and kind of say, hey, like, maybe there are other systems we can play this comp on that work just as well as zone. Because I know, because I nominated the site for nationals this year, because they like asked for extra nominations because they didn't want, there was just one, so they like opened it up an extra day and were like, please send in your nominations, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll send one in, and they were like, no, because it's Laser Force, and I'm like, well, it works fine. Like, the game plays fine. Game plays great. It doesn't, we don't need to be tied to one manufacturer.
It's just, I guess it's a massive leap, and it's a massive mental leap, if anything. Like, and you guys are really the only ones who understand that it's not that big of a leap. The rest of us have got to like experience it and learn for ourselves, I guess. So I think it's a great step, and I really hope we get like at least a small batch of interstate players that can go over there and be a non-WA player as an advocate, because that's what we need. It's obviously any WA players are going to have some kind of bias, at least perceived bias from the outside world. So we need some non-WA players to go over there and experience it. Go, hey, this is pretty good actually. It's fine. It works exactly the same way, and we can emulate the game pretty well. So, and if anything, an annual event in WA, which is another reason why I'm not a big fan. I've said this many times, not a fan of 3 pre-nats for this reason, because I think it robs venues like yourself of an opportunity to have an invitational comp where it's having 3 pre-nats just means it's one opportunity less that everybody, it's just taking more players, travel costs and everything like that, and focus. And if we had one less pre-nats, a pre-nats that we don't really need, we only need 2 pre-nats really. It means that sites like yourself have an opportunity to have an invitational comp. So, yeah, I really hope everybody can get there. I think it's good timing because Nats is going to be, June-ish next year?
Nats is start of May.
Start of May?
Yeah. So start of May. So I think the comp is the 1st of May, but obviously we'll be there sort of end of April for training and stuff. Because, that's why I've got my comp on that specific weekend, because it's like, that's the furthest I could get it from every other laser tag comp and Christmas. It's like 3 weeks after pre-nats 3 and 3 weeks before nats. Because it's literally like, just the calendar's full, and I really want to do it before nats, so that when I put my nats nomination in, I can have at least some people who are like, Laser Force isn't the worst.
Another pretty cool thing about the dates, I am pretty sure the 28th of March is the International Laser Tag Day.
Oh, really?
Yes, as token by Eric Guthrie over for Zone, who's a salesperson for Zone Systems over in the US. He has the museum. He created the International Laser Tag Museum, and he's got there's 75 systems that have ever been built, and he's got 72 of them or something in this museum. He's got this crazy amount of nostalgic stuff. Yes, he knows the most about laser tag out of any human I've ever met. He knows everything about every system, the history, the people who created it, all the venues, the first venues, the whole thing. And he created the International Laser Tag Day, and I'm pretty sure it's on the 28th of March. So I think it would be very token for one of our older. Actually, WA would have to have one of the oldest scenes on the planet, probably zone scenes. Obviously Photon started in the 80s, but Zone's got one of the earliest international sporting scenes. So I think it would be very token to finally give you guys a resurge of interstate travel, and I really hope you guys can get something going there on that day. Cool. So I reckon we need to have a quick look at the agenda, because we have gone completely off what the original agenda was, which is great. And let's have a look. Is there anything else we wanted to talk about? Is there anything else you guys wanted to talk about in terms of, firstly, the Clash? Is there anything more you want to mention about the Clash before we move on?
Really?
Just get there, just be there, pretty much. Is Blue Base going to be done? That's what I wanted to ask.
Yeah,
it should be.
It should be. To be honest, it's taken me longer than I would have thought, but I'm moving my work schedule around, so I've got more time at site when the store's closed, so I can actually start tearing stuff down. So by March, I would be amazed. Bring your baseball bats and whack me in the knees if it's not done by March. It should be.
Well, February's pretty quiet. February's pretty quiet in our industry, so you've got a bit of time.
Yeah,
customers won't be as busy. And how many games will people get when they come? And will they play any side events?
So the plan is to play, kind of like a pre-nats number of games. I don't really want to play more than 11, 12 games a day per person, because that's where you start to your legs start to fall apart. So
round robin, cascades.
Yeah, we'll do a round robin. If we've got enough teams, we'll do a cascade, and then a final series. So very, very similar to a pre-nats type thing. We should have at least 5 teams from WA. If no one comes, we'll have 5 teams playing the comp, because that's kind of how many Nats teams plus extras we've got. If not 6, to be honest.
6. I would say 6 or 7 if we get everyone down.
Yeah, if we started scraping the league scene and was come down and play a weekend comp, we could probably get 6 or 7.
Yeah,
teams of full teams of WA players. So if we get some interstate players, a handful or a dozen or 20 or whatever, then suddenly we've got a 10-team comp, which would be really good. But yeah, the current plan is to play from sort of 2 p.m. through to 11 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. So we've kind of got, what was that, 9 hours to 18 hours of games. And we'll have Friday night training as well, because obviously if people are going to come from interstate, they're going to want to learn how to hold a Gen 7 phaser and how shoulders on top work and all that sort of stuff. So we've got some training time for that. There'll almost certainly be some time either before or during those times where we play some of the other space, we'll play some Space Marine games,
some
laser
laser
ball, and just kind of be like, look, this is this is a laser force, because I know there's definitely some people we've talked to that are like interested to play some Space Marines with like zone rules, because when they play Space Marines internationally, they play like show a shoulder, where you like have to like stick your shoulders out, so you're not allowed to panel, and you kind of like got to just like hold riflemen and like do that sort of stuff, because it's kind of how the game plays. But like when we play it here in WA, we just do like full gun covering, holding panels, like all that sort of stuff. So it's a little bit less jarring for people. Like, if people have gone to like the Brisbane Space Marines League, it's like completely different game to trying to play like zone teams, just because of like the rules they have around like covering and.
I went there once, and I first time I went in there, I went straight over a panel like this and tagged somebody over the edge, and I thought the player was going to have like a cardiac arrest. He was like, it was like I had stabbed his mum or something like that. It was like he was so offended by it. And then they had players coming up and penalising me, and I was like, wow, you have players who are playing the game issuing penalties. That's an interesting philosophy.
It's whack.
Yeah, we take it very seriously.
Yeah, I went there with Plank after Prenats 1. We stayed an extra day and went to the Space Marines League they have on a Monday night. It's very interesting. It was a lot of fun because we kind of know how Space Marines works, so it's not that much of a barrier to entry, because we do play Space Marines like we don't play it as a league. Yeah, like fun games after league. Sometimes we'll put Space Marines on.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of like knowing how it works, and then having that transition to like, leaving my gun clipped up basically and just like running around like this, is kind of like, it was interesting for me to see how the other half lives. And I think there's a good chance we're sending a team to the Space Marines Internationals, because it's in Brisbane next year.
In August.
Next year. It's in August next year. So I think we're planning to send a team, WA at least, maybe with some blow-ins based on how many WAs we can get, because there's a couple of us that are like kind of interested enough in Space Marines to want to go do a week-long comp over in Brisbane, and just sort of shoot some baddies.
Well, I was gonna ask you, like, what is your level of interaction with the international laser force scene? Is there much?
Not very
big.
No. Okay.
We did. Wombat was trying to start like a week-long comp called Titles. He was doing like we did one in 2015 and 16, 19, and 21. So we've done 4, where we were playing like a mix of. So we play like the zone format, zone teams, and we play Space Marines like with the same teams at like different times, and we do like basically just nats. So we do like just kind of solos and a doubles and a triples and all that sort of stuff with a mix of zone and laser force formats, which kind of worked. We had 10 teams once. Getting interest for it is hard. I don't know if you were around much when Zultak first kicked off, but we were trying to do a very similar thing where we'd like get side ops on board and then be like, cool, we're going to come to your site, we're going to play Nats, and we're going to, just teams from around the country are going to come in and just kind of indoctrinate you, I guess, in that kind of thing. And yeah, it was, I think Wombat was really trying to kick it off, and it was becoming a lot of work for him, which is why we kind of had years off, and then we had COVID and all that sort of stuff.
It's all kind of trailed off.
He's been a busy man the last couple of years, but I am planning on doing a week-long comp next year, at some point later in the year, like Augusty, similar time as the Space Marines Internationals, because then we might be able to rope some of the like US players and stuff coming across and giving Zone a try if it's like the week after or something like that. So we might do that. We'll play a bit of Laser Force formats. We'll play some Zone formats. That's still all very. I've not worked out exactly what we want to do in that regard. But the plan is to do another week-long comp. I need to talk to Wombat about it, actually, see if he wants to be involved. Because he's very much like there at the inception of titles, I guess. It's sort of like his thing that he kind of tried to get off the ground. So we'll see if he's got the time to put into it, help me organise a comp.
Yeah. So it's the relationship with the international Laser Force communities, like it's just like there's nothing, no issues or anything. It's just kind of like there's more engagement in the zone comps, so you tend to that's where the focus goes.
Yeah, we haven't really had. I can't think of a time we've had like an international Space Marines like team per player or anything like come over and like play in our leagues. I mean, I suppose like when we first had titles, we had like some Brisbane teams and mostly Brisbane teams, like Rockhampton teams. So players like Taipan is a Laser Force convert who like came and played in our titles and was like, actually zone's kind of cool, and then just started going to like zone leagues. Players like Gooby, who was again a Laser Force player that then moved to WA. That's it. So we've had some from like the early titles that have kind of become zone converts. But yeah, I'm sure if you talk to Taipan, he still plays Space Marine sometimes. I think he was going to come when Plank and I went to the league, but he was too tired of something. But other like the international guys, I've like spoken to them on their streams and stuff because I've like watched a bit of the like Space Marines internationals. And I'm like really interested. I'm really interested to like go over there and like meet them and sort of see how they play and sort of see how their like scene works and stuff like that. Because it's really interesting because they're very separated from the zone scene. There's not other than Taipan, there's no overlap really. So yeah, it's interesting. They play a very different game with a very different style. And obviously here, because we were like a zone site before 2013, I think, Wombat changed all his sites to Laser Force from zone. So like that's why we still play Zone League and that sort of stuff, because that's where all our players are, and Wombat loves the zone game more so than the Laser Force and all that sort of stuff. So we're very unique in that regard. I don't think there'd be any other really Laser Force scenes that play zone as a league format. Maybe outside of other sites that may have converted to Laser Force. I don't know how many of them there are, especially among zone like players or zone league kind of things that would convert to Laser Force, or have other than WA. I'm not sure, to be honest.
So I wanted to ask a little bit about player development for you guys, because another thing about WA is there's a very rich history of success in WA. So WA was the power state for a period of time, probably like 2007 through to 2000 from the very beginning. Actually, the first ever Nats we went to in 2001, we got second in. We were kind of probably lucky to get second in that year, but we've always been very successful from the beginning. But particularly 2006, 2007 through to around 2012, when the Knights kind of finished up, like WA was it. Like I remember at Willetton in 2008, I think out of the top 10 spots, WA had 8 of the top 10 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
it was like one left to start or something like that.
Yeah. There's always been it's always been a very successful league scene. Before we even went to nationals, we had 10, 11, 12 teams at league at Northbridge every season. And a big part of that was Wombat and how good he was socially as well. He was very involved socially back then with the players and everything like that. So always found a good balance of the social aspect and the competitive aspect. And I wanted to ask you about kind of is there a common philosophy these days? Is it what is the philosophy for player development and growing the scene in WA at the moment? Have you got what do you guys do really well, do you think, in that regard?
So we don't really have like an overall philosophy, or at least like I've kind of been talking to my players and stuff about what my philosophy is and what they should kind of be doing, but we haven't really sat down as a scene. I'm a big believer in that we kind of, if we're ever going to win trophies again, we kind of need to be able to play like finals levels games at home to like train, because I don't think we're ever going to beat places like states like Queensland, even like states like Hobart, when we're trying to still jump that system gap without sort of being able to play and practice grand final level games at home. And we don't have 15 people that are grand final level game ready. So at the moment, my focus, and hopefully the focus of my players, because I've kind of gone through this with them, is like our main goal is to generate. We need more players. We're looking for players that have the drive or the talent to be able to be grand final level players, and then we need to develop them to find out if they have the other. We need to find either players with talent and see if they've got the drive to become good players, or players with the drive and then see if they've got the talent to sort of get to that level. And then once we're there, we can start actually like practicing 15 player games, because at the moment we've kind of got it depends how highly you rank people, somewhere between 0 and like 4 like actual like grand final level like quality players. So we're kind of in like we all need to become much better at the game. Yeah, pretty much all of us. And to do that, we kind of need people to leapfrog off, because that's kind of where, especially in the recent years, where Queensland's got a lot of their success, is that sort of like they just have a ton of really good players that are all constantly improving off each other, whereas we've got like a more of like a spread of skill levels, so we're kind of in the drumming up Nats players so that we can create that core sort of at least 15 or hopefully more players that can then build each other up to sort of get there. So we're a bit sort of thinking 4 years in the future, sort of 3 or 4 years in the future in terms of teams, which is why like we've still got what other people might perceive as like our good players on separate teams, like trying to develop players while we're picking up brand new players for our B team, like that sort of thing. Trying to really do that sort of player development, I guess. And it's the same thing at League. Like I tell our Nats players, like your goal at League is to find Nats players. It's not to to come into League and win your League trophy that cost me $8. It's not about that. It's not about being top of the solo ladder or whatever. It's about you're trying to find people to be on your Nats team 3 years from now when you're winning a Nats trophy. That's what you're doing. And we have a quite big leagues, I think, compared to a lot of places around Australia, at least.
In the last couple of years, we probably had like, I think last year we probably had a season of like 12 teams at Willerton, but lately I think it's like 8.
Yeah.
I think it's like about 8. It's kind of steadying out at about 8 teams.
Yeah, I think, well, we've got 9
at
this season,
yeah.
and here we've got 5.5.
Yeah, 5 or 6, yeah.
Yeah, we've always kind of had significantly less players at PK, just because it's so far away. Like, it's literally, from Willerton, it's probably a 40-minute drive.
Yeah.
And Willerton's already south of the CBD. So for people who live near Willerton, they're just like, I don't want to drive 45 minutes to play 3 games and then drive back. Like,
yeah,
it's kind of, which can be quite a barrier. But, we have a decent-sized league scene. And we do quite a good, handicapping system. I don't know if many other places do the handicapping the way we do, but we kind of have, like, each player has a grade, which is, like, kind of based on how good you are, pretty much. Which is both based on statistics, but also just, like, the league coordinator's perception of how much you bring to a team. And then your grades stuck together gives you like your team like a handicap point, and then you just get like a percentage applied to your team score. So if you've got like a bunch of new players, so after the game through Torn and stuff like that, you get like a handicap percentage applied. So if you've got a team of like 5 brand new players, you get 260% score, so that you can still kind of like come out of games and win them and things like that. And it's mostly like our league teams, they all kind of sit somewhere between like 100% and like 110%.
Yeah.
Because you've got a couple of good players and a couple of mid-grade players and a couple of low players on your league teams.
It's pretty rare that we have big teams of like high. Like you'll see a team with like 150 occasionally, but that'll usually be like, they have
1 AAA and 4 G grades, or and like brand new players, like that sort of thing.
Because at the end of the day, even if they're winning games, like a team with 5 G grades might not be having a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're just kind of getting shot, which is one of the main problems with the sport in general. Is the gap between the top and the bottom in terms of skill is quite big, and the nature of the fact that like we don't have many players as a sport, like everywhere, not just here in WA, but like we've got the players that have been playing for 16 years playing with the players that have played 2 games, and it's having that kind of interaction that the handicap does help with, because you can kind of be like, look, well, you didn't score that much, but you're also giving everybody else on your team 10% more score. So you're still helping just by existing. And the teams, they have, when you create your league teams, we have a point cap. So when you first make your team, you can't have more than or less than 100% handicap.
Yeah.
So, teams going to have to be created with that handicap in mind, and you've got to make at least like a sort of evenish team where you've got some lower grades and some higher grades. You can't just put all your high grades to play you can't just put all your high grades together and play with 50% handicap.
Yeah.
So we do that.
It's quite good.
I quite like it. I've been doing a little bit of fiddling with it and sort of adding new grades and changing the way the points work and that sort of stuff, just to try and tailor it really specifically to how we work. And also so that helps with new player engagement, but also especially since we've had base evac, it's just kind of we kind of sat down with all the players when we first started playing base evac league and was like, look, if we're going to do this, we're going to have a little bit of a mindset shift and really be like, you're going to have to be nice to new players.
Yeah.
You're going to have to, throttle how hard you're playing and how well you're playing against newer players and things like that. Because, like I said before, with the skill gap thing, if you're holding a panel inside a base and some guy who's played 2 games is trying to get inside, he's never getting in, right?
Yeah.
You've got to give them that leeway and sort of encourage people and just sort of act in a way that playing League is different to playing Nats training and playing Nats games and things like that.
Because even at a national training level, probably before, even as far as recently as 2 years ago, our Nats training was kind of very separate. We'd have kind of multiple training sessions with different people who wanted to train with each other, and people wouldn't be keen to play mixed team games. They'd only want to play with their Nats team and stuff. And it did make it it made it a lot harder for people to get better, because the game was either you're playing against people of your skill level or you're playing against people just far better than you and you're getting stomped. So what it meant was kind of without those kinds of mixed teams games or just Nats team training, and even then it was at a pretty the one of the very few zone sites we have, which is a time zone in Midland. And it meant that, so with the kind of separate training, you either weren't playing against good people to get better off of, or you were playing against a full team of good people and not getting better because you're just getting shot constantly. So
it sounds like
sort of getting that mindset in of playing mixed teams and sort of encouraging newer players and giving them fair games and that sort of stuff. We've been trying to really, really do.
Yes, just to kind of provide some comparisons with how we kind of developed, because we started in the same boat. When I got here in 2003, I pretty much I brought a lot of the handicapping systems that Wombat had invented from WA over here. And of course, when you bring a whole bunch of new stuff, there's a whole bunch of the old school that don't like it. And so I lost pretty much almost the entire scene here when I first got here and had to build back from nothing. So we were in the same position of building from nothing. And I made the mistake for many years of we'd put our Nats team all on a team together and would go in and play with whoever else was here. And it just took so long to build. And as soon as we started splitting, it still doesn't happen overnight, but the progress happens so much quicker, because the other thing as well is you just retain players more. And something that you just brought up before, it's just about accumulating more players and putting the work into them so you can get to that critical mass of, if you've got 15 players that are at a good level and you can go in there and actually play a high level Nats game against each other and train, suddenly the level just starts to peak. And that was when we got much better, is when we got to a point where we had the Wolfpack guys started, and then we had our Maroons team, and we also had Blue Steel at that time. And Renegades were around at that time as well. They were pretty good too. And suddenly we had we could play a 3-team game where everybody was at a really high level. And then that was when everything really took off. So yeah, it feels like you guys have got a lot of really good things in place. laying foundations, which is great. And I really look forward to seeing like what will happen as well to the level of enthusiasm if you can get some interstate players and teams to come across for the clash, because that's always proven to like invigorate the locals too when they see, like, no doubt you've probably got local players that probably haven't been exposed to
Yeah, for sure.
interstate players, and like they think their little bubble that happens at PK is everything, and suddenly like their mind gets blown open by all these new teams and players that come, and the things that they experience and learn from them. So just another thing as well that so I handed over the leagues here at Launton to Diego and Hazmat probably a year or two ago, and they introduced something that I really liked, which was they made a rule that so we created an environment where yes, the top level players, you got to take it easy, right? And I'd already kind of put something in place. I had like a conversation I would have with people when they got to kind of B plus area, and it would be like, okay, think of it like a car. You've got 6 gears. 6th gear is going to nationals. We're probably playing your top level zone at nationals is 6th gear. We're probably playing in 3rd or 4th gear here at league, right? And what does that look like on a practical level? Okay, if you've got a new player going for the base, if they're hiding in the right spot and they're having a good crack, you dive, but you don't dive in at full speed. You might dive at half speed, and like maybe your first shot misses. Like. You know what I'm saying? And like, if they're standing out in the open, tag them, because they need to learn to get back in the pocket or to get into that spot. But if they're doing their best, just sort of kind of let them get the base without it making it look like you're not too obviously letting them get the base, right? So we kind of had those rules in play. Don't go too hard, and just kind of allow lots of bases to go down. We're not going for 2 or 3 base games in the league kind of thing. And that was kind of working, and as long as you have the conversations at the right time, it kind of works. But they introduced a thing where they made it where the best players, like the Nats players, couldn't be last line. That's one thing. And then also, once they started getting a mid-tier, so mid-tier, you guys might have known Innie. I think Innie's played a couple of comps now. We've got a guy called Dirtbag. We've got a couple of these guys that are like the best of the league guys that haven't really played in any like nationals or anything yet. We used it as an opportunity. Now they're going to captain the team because they need to take the stretch, and the Nats players are going to kind of just sit on a door, essentially. They're just going to play on doors. And that way when another top-level player comes up to the base, they can at least go and duel with the top-level player on the other team, if that makes sense. And you don't have like a top-level player in last line. And I was like, oh, that's a great idea. Like, I really liked that. It's worked quite kind of well. And you don't have that top player in last line just keeping all the new players out, essentially. You've got a newer player in last line, so a newer player is going to have a much better chance of tagging them out. So, yeah, just a couple of little things like that that made a big difference too. They've been doing really well. Diego and Lilbo are now averaging 6 to 8 teams, which is, we struggle with, like any league. I think running a league and running a laser tag venue, for me, running the league is the hardest thing to get successful. Like it's, birthday parties, they just work, like all the basic customer stuff of running a laser tag venue is easy compared to running and maintaining a league over a long period of time. Like it's really challenging, especially when you get you've got to manage clicks and make sure that, that socially everybody's getting integrated. And then, of course, you've got to manage behaviours. And, like, when people get overly competitive, you've got to, like, stamp on top of that as well and make sure that it's good vibes because, you're not going to retain new players if the vibes are all off. So, yeah, it's a tricky thing. And, like, it takes ages to, like build up a league, but you can destroy it very quickly if you don't stay on top of a couple of those key things. So, mate, you're doing God's work over there, guys. Like I know it's really tough, but it's the reward when you get to that milestone is huge. And I really hope that the Clash could be another stepping stone for you guys. I can't believe we've been going for nearly an hour and 45 minutes. Like we've been killing it tonight, guys. All right, so we will have to wrap up soon. I'm just searching if there's anything else that we should chat about before we go. How about this one? If each of you could see one major change to the way we do things at the moment, what would it be and why? Do you guys have anything that we do currently in laser sporting that you'd love to see us transform and do it slightly differently. Play on Laser Force at Zeltac. That's number one.
Yeah, well, less specifically Zultak, or less specifically, sorry, Laser Force, but like, just kind of opening it up and being like, any system we can play the game mode on is fine.
Yeah.
I think that's a huge step in the right direction of becoming like an actual sport. I personally have been saying for a while that we're going to need a format change if we ever want to be a real sport, because personally I don't think Zultak Teams is like a watchable format, and I think it's being able to be watched is another big step in becoming a sport, and like actually being recognized as an actual sport and growing that sort of following to sort of take the next step. But what that format is, I'm still not entirely sure. What about you, Snake?
Nothing I can think of off the top of my head. I agree with a lot of what Gaz has been saying in terms of, opening it up to more systems and making laser tag in general more watchable. It's just something that really we're taking stepping stones as a state to try and get to a high level. But if we want to take, we've got a long road ahead of us in terms of the sport to get to like a point where we have a lot more kind of engagement. We have more kind of recognition as a sport, all that kind of stuff. And we just need to start looking at how exactly we can do that, and all really just be open to a bit more change in a lot of things. Like we're quite set in like a 2-week Nats is really not viable for a lot of people. And stuff like that. We just need to be open to changing everything. Really,
I think that's true of a lot of laser tag scenes. Like with Worlds playing their 1 shot a second, and Laser Force playing Space Marines and not wanting to change from their shoulder rules and stuff like that. They're all dated to when the guns didn't have sensors on them, which is basically why they play that way. But now like guns have had sensors for yonks now, and it's like you don't need to play this way. We can play a bit more like Zone, and Zone can play a bit more like freeform with its formats and things like that. And just kind of really trying to nut out what is kind of like objectively the better way for laser tag to progress as a sport, and trying to put aside those like, well, I've done this for years, I'm really good at it, and I like playing this way, so I think we should keep playing this way forever. Like putting those sorts of things aside and just really and kind of taking a more objective look at like what is actually better for us as a sport, and as sort of like a wider community trying to become recognized like athletes. Like what is the best way for us to approach this? Is it something completely different to all of the formats we all play? Like is there a better way we could be doing these things? Because I think a lot of stuff laser tag wise is kind of rooted in tradition. And sort of breaking away from that a bit, and sort of thinking like what is actually better might be a good way for us to sort of step forward as a sport.
Couldn't agree more. I totally agree with that. Like I believe in reducing this, potentially going to 2 teams. Like if we get not ever abandoning our current Celtac format, that's always going to be for me like Test cricket. Like it's the boring 5-day game that Granddad sits on the couch on Boxing Day and will watch for forever and a day. And we never want to like tarnish that or anything like that, but we're going to create 2020 cricket one day, and it's going to look different, and it's going to be faster and more digestible and easy for new people to kind of understand what's going on from the get-go. We don't know what that is yet, and it's definitely some we want to start having that discussion here on the channel actually about what different ideas, what that might look like, and it might look like multiple game formats played in a match. Like a match might be 3 formats. It might be a limb and a base flags and something else, and like a 3-team game as the finale or something like that. So you can like create it into a product, into a 20 or 30 minute product that you put on YouTube, and that's like a match between 3 teams. They go head to head in base flags and head to head in a limb or something like that, and then they finish off with a 3-team game or something like that. Like there's so many different ways we could like slice and dice it to make it easier for people to enjoy the game. So yeah, I really agree with that about rethinking what we're doing, essentially. So yeah, thank you so much, gentlemen, for the chat tonight. Yeah, I really, yeah, I'm going to get all the details. Is there a website or is there a contact or something for people interested in the Clash, or somewhere that if they're not on the States page, or is there any, or should you just send me the details and we'll pop it on our socials or something like that?
Yeah, I'll send you a link to the Facebook event. Because that's all we've really got for the Clash, at least. Is a Facebook event. So.
Awesome, guys. Well, yeah, thanks so much for jumping on. Really appreciate it. It's been wonderful chatting, and best of luck with preparation for the comp, for preparation for Nats. Are you guys coming to pre-Nats too?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Yeah, I'm planning to. I don't yet have a team, but I'm planning to come. So,
cool.
Really bully people into coming to Clash is my plan.
Oh, good. Yeah, so I'll be there. I'm playing with Bro Dizzle and Plank and Method. I can't wait.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, which is going to be super fun. All right, guys. Thanks again. I'm going to let you guys get to training. I think Plank's organised it all for you. Thank you, Plank, for doing that, so that you guys can chat to me tonight. And, yeah, we look forward to chatting to you guys again, hopefully in the near future.
Awesome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's been great.
You're welcome.